കുറച്ച് സ്പീക്കേഴ്സ് മലയാളികളല്ലാത്തതുകൊണ്ട് അവർ ഇംഗ്ലീഷിലായിരിക്കും, കുറച്ച് പേര് മലയാളത്തിലുമായിരിക്കും. Whatever language you would like to. Yeah, English, okay. Laurie Baker, the man, architecture and his legacy. അതാണ് ഇന്നത്തെ വിഷയം. Today's theme is Laurie Baker's legacy and his architecture and his life. And I would like to talk about his life first. I think the better person to talk about his life may be Geetha Narayanan. His life, she has lots of interaction with him. Laurie Baker built 3 houses for Geetha Narayanan, for her mother, for herself, and another house for her mother. 3 houses. From that time onwards, actually Laurie Baker molded Geetha Narayanan's life also. I think she took a lot of things from Laurie Baker for her life, and she will start with her experience with Laurie Baker and his teachings. First, Geetha Narayanan.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I met Laurie Baker as a young girl of 26, and I think our families grew old together, and we spent many hours talking, and some of it was hilarious because he had a terrific sense of humor. Some of it was thought-provoking, and some, towards the end of his life, saddened me deeply. So, to begin with, as a young girl, when I met him, he used to tell me a lot about himself, about his life in China, and all the funny things that happened there. And he also talked to us about life, his ideas, his values, his philosophy, and I do think that listening to him over a period of so many years definitely made us better human beings. And I thought, instead of talking about his architecture, there are so many eminent architects here who will be able to do that better, maybe I could repeat some of the conversations that I had. It might be more interesting for you. As a young girl, he used to constantly invite our families to his place to have a meal with him. And the very first time he called us over for a meal, we were wondering what to take, what to do. We really had no ideas, so I rang him up and I said, "Can I bring something?" He said, "Oh, no, just bring yourselves." So we went over and we found a bowl of rice, another bowl of dal, and 4 little pieces of fish. That's all. So Mrs. Baker divided this neatly between the 4 of us, my husband, myself, and Baker and Mrs. Baker. All of us got a portion. It was the most delicious food that I've ever eaten because there was so much joy, so much fun, and such lovely conversation going on. Nobody wanted to get up, and we sat there, and after we had finished lunch, over cups of tea, Mr. Baker told us all about his life in China and all about how he met Mrs. Baker and how he married her. Stories that were so interesting, we didn't want to get up at all. Most of these stories can be read in Mrs. Baker's book, The Other Side of Laurie Baker, so I won't go into that. But as the years went by, I came up to my 50th year, and I thought, oh my God, that is half a century. The word century is used in history books and in antique shops, and I could feel that weight heavily on my shoulders. So when Mr. Baker came to wish me, I said, "Don't wish me, because I'm feeling very depressed today. Today is the day when I've started becoming old." So he said, nonsense. Listen to this. And he whipped out a piece of paper from his pocket. One of Mr. Baker's pastimes was looking into the marriage proposals in the Hindu, the matrimonial columns. He used to pick out various things from these columns and put them together and bring hilarious little accounts to, make us laugh. So he pulled this out and he said, listen to this. Handsome young man, wheatish complexion, only 58 years old, married twice, first died, second divorced, is very agile after 2 knee replacements, seeks suitable bride, should be fair, well-educated, and preferably a doctor, naturally having 2 knee replacements. So he said, should be willing to have children, to inherit 100 acres of banana farm on the outskirts of Tamil Nadu. So he said, look at that, the zest for life that this man has got. Geetha, you should learn from that. So I said, well, since I'm not inclined to murder my husband or divorce him, I don't think I'm a suitable candidate for this. So he says, that's not what I mean. Learn from him. Never say you're too old. I want you to start a new hobby, and I want you to make new friends. So I said, how do I go about that? He said, isn't there anybody you admire? Isn't there anybody you'd like to meet? So I said, yeah, there are some people. Then he said, find out their telephone numbers, ring them up, and say, I'd like to meet you. I've heard so much about you. Do try that out. There is one gentleman here, Mr. Syriac. Where is he? Is he around? There you are. Mr. Syriac was put through this. I've often wanted to meet him. I've admired his work. So one day, I said, okay, I'll follow Laurie Baker's advice. I rang him up. And I said, my name is Geetha Narayanan. I've admired your work. I'd like to meet you. Now, he's one of my good friends. So it works. So anyway, that was when I decided I'd try my hand at writing. So I wrote a short story. And Baker asked me, have you been following my advice? Have you started a new hobby? I said, yes. So with 2 fingers, I was typing this out when he came one day, and he said, let me see it. I said, no way. You'll tease me for the rest of my life. It's a hobby, and I'm keeping it to myself. He said, there's no point in having a hobby if you're not going to share it with everybody else. So he said, I'll give you time. You finish writing all your short stories, and you show it to me. So after I'd written 10, every time he came, he would say, so, are you done? Are you done? Are you done? I knew there was no way I could get out of it. So finally, I gave him these short stories. And a few days later, he came back. He had illustrated every one of them to my utter delight. And we published it. I got 1,000 rupees. He got 750. And we thought we were rich. Both of us went to the tea shop nearby. We had a parampuri and a tea to celebrate. So those were days when we were really hard up for money. I was a young girl. I had 2 tiny little children. Baker had just started his career, and he had just started building a few houses in Trivandrum. So we used to love doing things like this together. Then, as the years progressed, and, as I told you, for my 50th birthday, I felt so miserable, and he cheered me up. Baker started slowly giving up all these works that he was doing, and we used to go and meet him at his house. And there again, he used to come out with a sense of humor. He used to say, do you know how I spend my time now? So I asked him, what do you do? He said, I look through the window and I count all the ambassador cars that are going by. It saddened me to hear that, And I said, why don't you come over? He was still able to go, and I said, my daughter Karthi would be coming. She was a great favorite of Baker because when she was 4 years old, she proposed to Laurie Baker and said, I'd like to marry you. So he always had a soft corner for her, and he used to tease his wife and say, you better behave because there's somebody waiting for me to run away with her. So when I said Karthi is coming, he said, I'd love to meet her, and he agreed to come over. And we both went and sat on a little deck that he had built outside our house from where you could see the lake. And we sat over there, and I said, you know, Mr. Baker, my husband always wanted a roof for this deck so that we could use it even when it rains and even when the sun is too strong, we could come and sit here. So then he smiled and he said, no, I don't want that. So I said, why? And he said, very soon, I'll be up there with the stars. And when I look down, I'd like to see you. And I'd like to say, yoo-hoo, Geetha. And when the wind blows and you listen very carefully, you'll be able to hear my voice. And then you can look up and say, yoo-hoo, Mr. Baker. So now, in the evenings, when I sit there and the wind blows, I listen. And I wonder if he's saying yoo-hoo to me. Someday, I know I will also go up to the stars, and maybe then we'll say yoo-hoo to each other. Thank you very much for your patient hearing, and I do hope I'll be able to share more stories with you.
Thank you, Geetha ma'am. Next, I think, again live, Laurie Baker's life. Two are Laurie Baker's clients, client turned friends. The second is George. George also made 2 houses, one for his father and for himself. And also lots of interaction with Laurie Baker. After hearing about Baker's life and his, how he dealt his clients and his friends, then after we'll go to his architecture. I think next George.
May I talk in my mother tongue? I am very sorry. Some of the faces not able to understand but I will try in between. It is just because I'm more comfortable in Malayalam. That's all. സാധാരണ ബേക്ക് ഒരു 2 മണിക്ക് വരൂ എന്ന് പറയും. നമുക്കൊരു 40 മിനിറ്റ് ഇരിക്കാം, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അരമണിക്കൂർ. ഓക്കെ, ഞാൻ 2 മണിക്ക് തന്നെ ഇവിടെ എത്തും ഹാംലെറ്റിൽ. പക്ഷേ മടങ്ങുന്നത് ഒരു 6:30 മണി ഇരുട്ടിയിട്ടാവും. അരമണിക്കൂർ കൊണ്ട് വീട് പണിയുടെ കാര്യങ്ങളൊക്കെ സംസാരിച്ചു കഴിയുണ്ടാവും. പക്ഷേ പിന്നെ ലോകം പണിയുന്ന കാര്യങ്ങളാണ് സംസാരിക്കുക. ഞങ്ങളുടെ താല്പര്യങ്ങൾ മിക്കവാറും സമാനമായിരുന്നു. അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ വിനിമയം വളരെ സ്വാഭാവികവും എളുപ്പവുമായിരുന്നു. ആ കാലത്ത് ഞാൻ വ്യക്തിപരമായ കാര്യം പറയുന്നത് അത്ര ഇഷ്ടപ്പെടുന്ന ആളല്ല. എങ്കിലും ഞാൻ ഒരു ഗുരു എന്ന് പറയുന്ന സങ്കല്പത്തെ അംഗീകരിച്ചിരുന്ന ഒരാളല്ല. ബുദ്ധൻ്റെ നീ മാത്രമാണ് നിൻ്റെ വെളിച്ചം എന്ന ഒരു ധാരണ പങ്കിട്ടിരുന്ന ഒരാളായിരുന്നു. പക്ഷേ പിൽക്കാലത്ത് എന്നെ തന്നെ അത്ഭുതപ്പെടുത്തിക്കൊണ്ട് ഞാൻ സ്വയം മനസ്സിലാക്കിയത് എനിക്കൊരു ഗുരുവുണ്ട്. അത് ഞാൻ പ്രവർത്തിക്കുന്ന മണ്ഡലത്തിലെ ഒരാളല്ല, ചിത്രകലയോ എഴുത്തോ ഉള്ള ഒരാളല്ല, ഒരു വാസ്തുശില്പി. അത് ഞാനറിയാതെ എൻ്റെ ഗുരുവായി മാറുകയായിരുന്നു. അതിന് ഒരൊറ്റ കാരണമേ ഉള്ളൂ, എനിക്ക് എന്നെ അറിയുന്നതിനേക്കാൾ കൂടുതൽ എന്നെ ബേക്കർക്ക്, ഞങ്ങൾ ഡാഡി എന്ന് വിളിച്ചിരുന്ന ബേക്കർക്ക് അറിയാമായിരുന്നു. ബേക്കറിലൂടെയാണ് പലപ്പോഴും ഞാൻ എന്നെ തന്നെ മനസ്സിലാക്കിയിരുന്നത്. അത് എങ്ങനെയാണ് നിങ്ങളോട് വിനിമയം ചെയ്യേണ്ടതെന്ന് എനിക്ക് അത്ര നിശ്ചയം പോരാ. ഒരു വീട് പണിയുന്ന ഒരാൾ ആയിട്ടല്ല എനിക്ക് ബേക്കറെ അറിയുന്നത്. ഒരു പക്ഷേ ഞാൻ ആഗ്രഹിച്ച, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ എൻ്റെ തലമുറയിലുള്ള ഒരുപാട് പേർ ആഗ്രഹിച്ച ഒരു ലോകം പണിയുവാൻ സ്വപ്നം കണ്ടിരുന്ന, ശ്രമിച്ചിരുന്ന ഒരു മനുഷ്യൻ എന്ന നിലയിലാണ്. ഒരുപക്ഷെ ഇവിടെ ഇരിക്കുന്ന ചെറുപ്പക്കാരായ വിദ്യാർത്ഥികൾക്കും ആർക്കിടെക്ട്സിനും ഒക്കെ മനസ്സിലാവുമായിരിക്കാം. അവർക്ക് ഒരുപാട് ലോകത്തെക്കുറിച്ച്, അവർക്ക് ജീവിക്കേണ്ട ജീവിതത്തെക്കുറിച്ച് സ്വപ്നങ്ങളും സങ്കല്പങ്ങളും ആശയങ്ങളുമുണ്ട്. അതിന് ഏതെങ്കിലും തരത്തിൽ സപ്പോർട്ട് ചെയ്യുന്ന, താങ്ങുന്ന ഒരു ആളെ അവർ വളരെ വളരെ ഇഷ്ടപ്പെടും. അതായിരുന്നു ബേക്കർ. എനിക്ക് അതിദീർഘകാലത്തെ പരിചയമുണ്ടായിരുന്നു, സൗഹൃദമുണ്ടായിരുന്നു. എൻ്റെ 2 പെയിൻറ്റിങ് സോളോ എക്സിബിഷൻസ് ബേക്കറാണ് ഇനോഗ്രേറ്റ് ചെയ്തത്. ചെന്നൈയിലെ എക്സിബിഷനിലെ ബ്രോഷറിൽ എഴുതുകയും ചെയ്തിരുന്നു. അതിലൊരു വാക്ക് ഞാൻ ഇപ്പോഴും ഓർക്കുന്നു. I am bowled over by his use of color in paintings. ഞാൻ അതിനേക്കാൾ എത്രയോ മുൻപ് I was bowled over by his spaces. എന്തായിരുന്നു ഞാൻ ആ സ്ഥലങ്ങളെ അനുഭവിച്ചത്? ആ കാലത്ത് എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നു 1990-ലാണെന്ന് തോന്നുന്നു, അല്ലേ നമ്മൾ ഒരുമിച്ച് പോയതല്ല? ആ സമയം 90-ലോ 89-ലോ മറ്റോ ആണ്. ജയഗോപാലാണ് ഇനിഷ്യേറ്റീവ് എടുത്തത്. ഞങ്ങൾ കുറേ പേർ, ഒരുപക്ഷെ എന്താ പറയുക, സാധാരണ വഴിയിലൂടെ നടക്കാൻ താല്പര്യമില്ല എന്ന് പറയാവുന്ന കുറേ പേർ ആയിരിക്കാം, ഇങ്ങനെ ബേക്കറുടെ സ്ഥലങ്ങൾ കാണാൻ ഇറങ്ങി തിരിച്ചു. കേരളത്തിലെയും തമിഴ്നാട്ടിലെയും ഒക്കെ കുറേ നാളിങ്ങനെ അലഞ്ഞു നടന്നു. ഒരുപക്ഷെ ഒരുപാട് അലഞ്ഞ് യാത്ര ചെയ്തിട്ടുള്ള ഒരാളായിരുന്നു ഞാൻ. പക്ഷേ ഏറ്റവും അധികം ഞാൻ ആസ്വദിച്ചത്, ഞാൻ എന്നെ തന്നെ മനസ്സിലാക്കാനും സ്വയം ആനന്ദിക്കുവാനും പറ്റിയ ഒരു യാത്രയായിരുന്നു അത്. ഒരുപക്ഷെ ജയഗോപാലിനും അങ്ങനെ ആയിരുന്നിരിക്കണം. ജീവിതത്തെ മാറ്റിയൊരു യാത്ര എന്ന് വേണമെങ്കിൽ പറയാം. ഇടങ്ങൾ എങ്ങനെയാണ് മനുഷ്യനെ മാറ്റുന്നത്, എങ്ങനെയാണ് ഇടങ്ങൾ അവൻ്റെ ജീവിതത്തിൽ നിർണായകമാവുന്നത് എന്നൊക്കെ മനസ്സിലാവുകയായിരുന്നു. ഇപ്പോൾ അതിൻ്റെ കൂടെ ഒരു പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട കാര്യം ഉള്ളത്, ബേക്കർ എന്നെ പഠിപ്പിച്ച ഒരു പ്രധാന കാര്യം, എന്താണ് ജീവിതത്തിൽ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് സന്തോഷം തരുന്നത്. അത് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ജീവിതത്തിൽ ചെയ്യാൻ കഴിയുമെങ്കിൽ അതാണ് ജീവിതത്തിൻ്റെ സഫലത. അത് ബേക്കർ വളരെ വളരെ ചെറുപ്പത്തിലേ മനസ്സിലാക്കിയിട്ടുണ്ട് എന്ന് ആണ് എനിക്ക് മനസ്സിലായത്. ബർമിംഗ്ഹാം കോളേജ് ഓഫ് ഇതെല്ലാവർക്കും അറിയാവുന്ന കാര്യമാണ്. കോളേജ് ഓഫ് ആർക്കിടെക്ചറിൽ നിന്ന് ആർക്കിടെക്ചർ പാസ്സായി വന്ന ഒരാൾ ഇന്ത്യൻ ലെപ്രസി ഫൗണ്ടേഷൻ്റെ ലെപ്രസി പേഷ്യൻസിൻ്റെ ഹോസ്പിറ്റൽ പണിയാൻ ഇന്ത്യയിലേക്ക് വരികയും അവിടെ വെച്ച് പരിചയപ്പെട്ട മിസ്സിസ് ബേക്കറുമായി മധുവിധു ആഘോഷിക്കാൻ ഹിമാലയത്തിലേക്ക് കയറുകയും 18 വർഷം അവിടെ താമസിക്കുകയും ചെയ്തു എന്ന് നമുക്കെല്ലാം അറിയാം. ഈ 18 വർഷം ആർക്കിടെക്റ്റ് ഹിമാലയത്തിൽ ചുറ്റി നടന്നു. എനിക്ക് ഹിമാലയം കുറേ പരിചയമുണ്ട്, കാരണം ഇതേപോലെ കുറേ അധികം അവിടെ അലഞ്ഞു നടന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്. അത് ഇതുപോലെ തന്നെ സന്തോഷം അത് തന്നിരുന്നു എന്നുള്ളത് കണ്ട് തന്നെ സന്തോഷം തരുന്ന ജീവിതം ആണ് നമ്മൾക്ക് ജീവിക്കാനാവുക എങ്കിൽ അതിൽ പരം മറ്റൊന്നുമില്ല എന്ന് ബേക്കർ പഠിപ്പിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്. അത് വല്ലാത്തൊരു പഠിപ്പിക്കലാണ്. എത്രത്തോളം അത് ജീവിതത്തിൽ കഴിയുമെന്നുള്ളത് വലിയൊരു വെല്ലുവിളിയുമാണ്, അത് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് എല്ലാവർക്കും അറിയാം. പക്ഷേ ബേക്കർ ഞാൻ മനസ്സിലാക്കിയിടത്തോളം ഞാൻ അറിഞ്ഞിടത്തോളം അത് ജീവിതത്തിലുടനീളം പാലിച്ച ഒരാളാണ്. ഒരു അനുരഞ്ജനവുമില്ലാതെ സ്വന്തം ആശയങ്ങളെ ബേക്കർ പിൻപറ്റിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. അത് എത്ര പേർക്ക് കഴിയുമെന്ന് എനിക്കറിയില്ല. അങ്ങനെ ഒരു ചോദ്യത്തിലേക്ക് ഞാൻ പോകുന്നില്ല. പക്ഷേ ബേക്കർ തരുന്ന ഏറ്റവും വലിയ ആശയം അതാണെന്ന് ഞാൻ കരുതുന്നു. ഒരേ ഒരു ജീവിതം ഈ നിമിഷം ഒരിക്കലും ഇനി ആവർത്തിക്കപ്പെടുകയില്ല, നിങ്ങളുടെ ജീവിതത്തിലോ എൻ്റെ ജീവിതത്തിലോ. അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ ബേക്കർ തന്ന ആ പാഠം ഏറ്റവും വലിയ പാഠമാണ് ഞാൻ വിചാരിക്കുന്നു. ആവർത്തിക്കപ്പെടാത്ത ജീവിതം, സ്വന്തം സന്തോഷം അനുസരിച്ചുള്ള കർമ്മം ചെയ്യുക എന്നത്. ഈ ഞാൻ വളരെയധികം പറഞ്ഞു പോകുന്നു എന്നെനിക്ക് സംശയമുണ്ട്. തൽക്കാലം ഞാൻ ഒരു കാര്യം കൂടി എനിക്ക് പറയണമെന്നുണ്ട്. 10-29 വർഷം ആയി ബേക്കർ പണിത ഒരു വീട്ടിൽ താമസിക്കുന്ന ഒരാൾ എങ്ങനെ പരിവർത്തനപ്പെട്ടു എന്ന് മാത്രം. അത് ഒരു വാചകത്തിൽ നിർത്തിയാൽ, ഞാൻ ബേക്കറോട് സംസാരിക്കുമ്പോൾ പറഞ്ഞൊരു കാര്യമുണ്ട്. ഞാൻ ഒരുപാട് അലഞ്ഞു തിരിഞ്ഞു, എനിക്കൊന്ന് സ്വസ്ഥമായി ഇരിക്കണമെന്നുണ്ട് എന്ന്. അപ്പം ഈ 29 വർഷം 30 വർഷമായി ഞാൻ ഈ താമസിക്കുന്ന വീട്ടിൽ വന്നു കഴിഞ്ഞ ശേഷം എൻ്റെ അലച്ചിൽ ഒരുപാട് കുറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഇത് വ്യക്തിപരമായ അനുഭവം. ആ അലച്ചിൽ കുറഞ്ഞതിന് ഞാൻ സ്വയം മനസ്സിലാക്കുന്ന കുറേയധികം കാരണങ്ങളുമുണ്ട്. അതിപ്പം പറയാനുള്ള സമയമുണ്ട് എന്ന് ഞാൻ വിചാരിക്കുന്നില്ല. എങ്കിലും സ്ഥലങ്ങളെക്കുറിച്ചുള്ള നമ്മളുടെ മുൻധാരണകളെ അത് ഒരു വൈകാരികമായ ഇടം ആണെന്ന് മനസ്സിലാക്കപ്പെടേണ്ടതിൻ്റെ അത്യാവശ്യത്തെ അത് ഊന്നുന്നു എന്ന് ഞാൻ വിചാരിക്കുന്നു. സ്ഥലം ഒരു ന്യൂട്രലായിട്ടുള്ള ഒന്നല്ല, അതൊരു വൈകാരികമായിട്ടുള്ള ഇടമാണ്. അതിന് നമ്മളെ മാറ്റാനുള്ള ഒരു ശക്തി നിലനിൽക്കുന്നുണ്ട്.
Thank you, George. Next, Cruz. Gerard Dicuna worked with Baker in late 70s. Actually, Gerard, once he went to Baker, and that time he did not complete his architecture, B-Arch. Then he just come to Baker and sat in his front door, near front door, and Baker refused to take him as a intern that time. But he sat there for one day, full. Then later, Baker asked him, do you want to work with me? Then you have to work in my sites, carry cement, carry sand, everything. And he agreed, and then he became an intern with Laurie Baker. Then he learned, he worked here for nearly 1.5 years in late 70s. Then Baker only asked him to complete his degree and come back. He sent him back to SPA Delhi. Then he completed and he started his work in Goa. Then Dean joined there with Gerard Dicuna. At that time, I'm not remember, but he joined and he worked with him for quite a long time. Then Dean is working there. I don't know Dean personally. We know each other, but I met him today only, first time. But I know him and he knows me. And now, handed over to Dean Cruz.
Yeah, good evening. Good afternoon, everyone. When I joined Gerard, working for him, I intended actually to come for just 6 months. After completing architecture, I was a technologist. I enjoyed machines, I enjoyed new technology, new materials, and I was supposed to do my master's in product design abroad. And I came down just for a few months just to bide time while my paperwork was done. And exposed to the sort of architecture that Gerard was doing in a very Baker style, I suddenly realized the great need for a softness and humanity in architecture that was lacking in India. Where you connected with the materials, you connected with the people, and that changed my mind completely. So instead of 3 months, I've been now over 30 years in Goa, never moved out. And it's the richness of the place that actually anchored the sort of architecture. When people talk about a Baker style of architecture, a lot of people imagine buildings with brickwork, exposed brickwork, with filler slabs, with little innovative details. But really a Baker style of architecture is something more universal. It's something which has a certain hands-on ring to it. It really has an understanding with its people. And it really resonates with the topic of this conference today, which is design, culture, and politics. And I think Baker really practiced all these in a way. Besides, of course, really innovative design, it's understanding the deep culture of the place, not just in Kerala, but in all throughout India. It's understanding the politics and the aspirations of the people. Where do you want to take them? I mean, we have in India such a tremendous wealth of heritage that at times we fail to understand. And we can see that reflected, that failure reflected in the architecture that we see around today. And Baker has that ray of hope that actually showed a lot of people. While I did not get an opportunity to work directly with Baker, we interacted occasionally. I visited him here a couple of times. In fact, he stayed at my house in Goa when he visited Goa. And the influence of Jared to me, and from me onwards to a number of people who have trained in our office, who have moved on, set up their own practices, I can see them imbibing the same values that Baker had in his architecture. And that gives tremendous amount of satisfaction to know that it's not just the building that really has influenced people. It's his way of life and it's his approach to architecture that has a tremendous value to it. And of course, his great sense of humor, which is always taken to great depth of understanding of things. Over the years, we've worked in a Baker style. Our initial projects were, again, design and build projects where we constructed ourselves. We inherited a few of Baker's masons who actually helped us in that. And you can see the great pride in their work of taking ownership of the building and adding their own little details. And these were efforts that Baker encouraged them to do. So it doesn't feel like an architect designed building. It feels like it's a crafted building made by the people who've actually designed it. And that's tremendous sense of satisfaction that you can see not only in the builders, but also in the clients who really interact with the masons, interact in a positive way, where the architect actually takes a secondary role and interprets the client's needs along with the sensibilities of the materials and the spaces needed there.
Thank you, Dean. Jaigopal, ഞങ്ങൾ ഏകദേശം ഞങ്ങൾ എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ എൻ്റെ പേര് സാജൻ. ഞാൻ ബേക്കറിനോടൊപ്പം 22 വർഷത്തോളം ജോലി ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ ആദ്യം ട്രെയിനി ആയിരുന്നു, പിന്നീട് അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ കൊളീഗായിട്ട്, അദ്ദേഹം കൊളീഗ് എന്ന് വിളിക്കാനായിരുന്നു ഇഷ്ടപ്പെട്ടിരുന്നത്, കൊളീഗായിട്ട് ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു അദ്ദേഹം മരിക്കുന്നത് വരെ. ഞാനും ജയഗോപാലൊക്കെ ഏകദേശം ഒരേ സമയത്താണ് ബേക്കറിനോടൊപ്പം വരുന്നത്. 85 ജയഗോപാൽ 86 ആ സമയത്താണ്. ജയഗോപാൽ ഒരുപാട് ലോറി ബേക്കറിൻ്റെ ബിൽഡിങ്സ് ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. നേരത്തെ ജോർജ് മെൻഷൻ ചെയ്തതുപോലെ, as George mentioned, they conducted a journey in 86 or 87 through all Baker buildings. Jaigopal organized it and many people involved in that journey. And Jaigopal started his career with Baker and still continuing that type of work. And now handed over to Jaigopal.
Thank you, Sajan. It's a bit nostalgic to remember Laurie Baker and to be sitting with people who have had very close interactions with Laurie Baker and who have seen through lives and various aspects of Laurie Baker for that matter. And I've visited Geetha Narayanan's house at least some 7-8 times. over a period of time. I'm sure, I don't know whether she remembers or she has seen me, but I know every nook and corner of the house in a number of ways. Similarly, I've come to Nalini's house at least some 25 times or even more than that. And I've come to George's house a number of times. It's been each time that we go to a building designed by Laurie Baker, it's a kind of a pilgrimage. And, you know, even to Center for Development Studies, when you go so many times, it's like going to a temple for me at that time, for that matter. So, as George mentioned, that so-called epic journey that we all undertook, it was probably in 1990s, as George was saying, probably, or even or end of 80s. We traced Laurie Baker's works in different parts of Kerala. Later on, then I also, then we came to see works in very, very remote places, even in a place called Tadikkanam in Kanyakumari district. You had in Alagiya Pandipuram, again in Tamil Nadu. Then I later on went on to explore Laurie Baker's works in Surat. And there was very interesting and unusual works that he has done in Surat. Then he has done very unusual, interesting works in Baroda, in Gujarat. And later on, I had the opportunity. Of course, Vagaman was another place that he has done so many works. He has done his own house in Vagaman. Then he had done a number of churches. And I don't know how many of you would have heard or seen the very legendary church that he has done in Tiruvalla. He had done in Tiruvalla, but it was unfortunately brought down. But the evolution of how Tiruvalla church came about, that is something that we also traced, and we could see the number of churches which were built before the grand finale at Tiruvalla. That was also a beautiful history to trace. Then we also had the opportunity to trace some buildings in Lucknow, Pithoragar, all these places, you know, the kind of evolution of Laurie Baker. And as he himself was saying, he discovered varied materials. What right now people see is the filler slab roof and the exposed brickwork and the latrab bond and such kind of things. Whereas you could see Laurie Baker's works. He has done works with all kinds of material, including bamboo, including varied kinds of timbers, including laterite, different kinds of stone, mud, and even cow dung is also one material that he often talked about. All these materials is something that he has tried to discover, and he has tried to you know, and he emulated all these from the local craftsmen of that region, and that is something that has shaped his architecture over the period of time. And that epic journey that we undertook along with George and Sundar, it spanned over some 21 to 30 days, if my memory is correct. And we were all kind of living through each work and trying to understand, you know, the perspective with which he would have built each of the buildings, and the kind of, you know, the feedback from each of the clients, and the beauty of each space and the evolution of each space. It was like a fantastic 3 or 4 weeks that we spent together. Was something I'll never you know, forget. And towards the end, we finally had a direct interaction with Laurie Baker, and we tried to tell him about this journey that we undertook, and he was making fun of us for wasting our time doing such a work. Then another thing, if I what I can try to give a little more insight into is the very question that a little while back, I think Jaitli was asking Benny about, urbanization and tall buildings, and whether what is the significance of tall buildings, and whether, and he was very, very reluctant to answer that question, but I had the opportunity to keep on egging him whether tall buildings are relevant or whether tall buildings are not relevant at all. And he did not, he was saying that always ground plus one, ground plus two buildings are more than sufficient for all practical purposes and all that. So, but then I was asking varied questions in my, on curiosity when I was quite young at that time, and I used to keep on pestering him. Then he came out with the one story which was really fascinating. He was talking about, how I think Surjit Singh Barnala, or one of the chief ministers of Punjab, wanted to, or I think it's one of the chief ministers of Haryana. Anyway, Le Corbusier built the capital of Haryana and Punjab together in Chandigarh. So I think Haryana wanted their own capital at that time. That was probably in the 70s, and then at that, the then chief minister apparently was looking for a person of stature close to Le Corbusier. He was going around the world and trying to find out the right kind of person. And then he found out that all the then known celebrated architects were very expensive. So he was not able to get a person suitable for designing a suitable capital for Haryana at that time. So then he said that the cheapest white skin that he could find was me. So he asked me to come. That is according to Laurie Baker. So apparently Laurie Baker is supposed to have gone and had a discussion. And then he apparently gave a design where he had designed a few multi-story buildings in such a way that, maybe ground plus 10 buildings, but all within walking distance. So in such a way that you eliminate the need of automobiles altogether. And that was being said in 1970s. And right now in 2015, that is now being talked about as a breakthrough in urban design and all. Walkable cities, walkable towns and walkable cities is being talked about. And even if it is some certain degree of high density, but walkable, so that cities don't expand out and cities don't become, urban sprawls, but you have very compact cities. And this is but Laurie Baker was reciting to me in a very humorous way about a concept of in such a case, perhaps to a certain extent, multi-storied may become relevant, but then you have to totally do it so that automobiles are not used at all. And then he was trying to imagine such a city where bullock carts will go between multi-storied buildings, and you'll have in a second story you'll have bullocks standing there and cows going around in multi-story buildings. So he was, while he was very humorous in trying to recall that such a city, it was quite an interesting urban area that he was trying to describe. And then he was saying that then I'll make all these ministers walk to work every day, and I'll make all the all the IAS officers also to only walk to work. They won't have their cars, they won't have their drivers. So it was quite fun. That is only one instance that I heard him describe, but that still remains as a very, very vivid memory. And I felt that that was in, kept on, that image of that kept on reminding me that such kind of an urban conglomeration is possible, but you try to eliminate the use of automobiles altogether, which is also a possibility. But he was very, very emphatic that predominantly buildings will be made with only local materials and with local know-how, and it is only in very, very unusual circumstances that you can look at a possibility at all for such kind of densification. With that, I think I'll close and I'll ask Sajan to continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaigopal. Now, I think we have to conclude it now. Few words about Baker and his legacy. People always used to call Laurie Baker as poor people's architect. And the people used to think because of he made houses for the poor people, they called Laurie Baker as the poor people's architect. But when I interact with him, when I worked with him, what I understood about Baker is not because of he built houses for the poor people, he was called poor people's architect. You may be surprised because in a small action, Baker think about with the Baker's own action, who will get the benefit of that action? If the benefit goes to a corporate, he don't want to do that. But that action goes to a poor man or a woman, definitely he will do that action. For example, use of lime, use of such materials, country bricks. Always he think about these poor people. All his actions result has to go to a poor family. That is what I understood why people called Laurie Baker as a poor people's architect. This is the reason. But most of them think because Laurie Baker built many houses for the poor people, he was called poor people's architect. Also, as Jaigopal said about multi-storied buildings, that is also a misconception. He did get the opportunities to build individual houses. Then he tried to build 1 or 2 story building, 3-story houses also. But when he started Center for Development Studies, the main library tower he conceived as a 7-story tower, first government building in Trivandrum, maybe in Kerala, first government building. Maybe first government building is that the other one, which is almost demolished now. But the CDS, that is started in 1972. But the first sketch itself, it was a central tower, was the library, and it was a 7-storied building. A structure, a concrete framed structure with 7-story, and the frame itself used to carry the load of the books and all. And also when he designed this Chengalchula housing as a slum eradication project, and also this Karimadam colony, he explained to us That time, in late 90s or 95, 96 time, he wrote a book about how to, or are slums inevitable? There is a booklet by Baker and published by Cosford. In that, he narrated all his thoughts about this, how to improve these slum-like situations. And he conceived a concept of having stepped houses. And he tried to provide open spaces for the poor people of these slum dwellers in each and every floor. And it is all he conceived for 4 floors. And he used to say it should be high density, low rise. Low rise, high density housing. That is always used to say, high density, low rise. Not to go more than 4 floors, even if it is a housing, because people can climb up to floor 4 without any lift and all. This is Baker's theory, and also he used to say they can have an animal on the first floor, which we laugh at it that time. But now we realize when we complete these houses in Chengalchola and also in Karimadam colony, we can see gods on the first, even in the 3rd floor. They are living there. They are climbing steps very easily and just go to the top floor and they put up a small shed for them. And that is many houses they are having their livelihood through these gods. Very easy. And the gods can climb through these sloping chajjas. That also you can see. They can go from one house to the other house. They are using these chajjas to go there. That is also, when you go visit this Karimadam colony, you can see them. Those gods are walking through these sloping chajjas. Amazing scene. This is what, because he always think, when he planned buildings and he always think their livelihood as well as how to benefit for a poor family. These things. This is what I learned from Baker most. It is very, very difficult to imitate his architecture. Like, you know, he's a master. But we can take his philosophy and his thinkings and we can practice it. Thank you very much. Now I think the session is concluded. Thank you. Yeah. Any questions from the audience you can ask, and we can spare 10 minutes for the question and answer session.
I'm just wondering why people who own Baker homes and, you know, who speak so lovingly about it and everything, themselves are giving it up to property developers and getting it broken down and demolished, and huge, you know, skyscrapers are coming up. Is that the natural order of things, or is there some way we can keep some of these for posterity, especially that circular thing on the way to between Keshavadasapuram and Ullur? On the left side, there was a circular building till very recently, till about 6 or 8 months ago. Now a huge flat is coming up there. So when the move is towards flattening the entire landscape, does Laurie Baker have a chance at all? I mean, poor man, I often think it's good that people like him left when they left, because the aggressiveness with which other things are happening in the past 10 years or maybe even 5 years, I'm not sure whether them and their philosophies could have competed or survived, or along with what else is going on in Kerala and perhaps in the rest of the country. Just your thoughts.
Actually, one of our agenda for in Laurie Baker Center and Cosford is, if possible, how can we extend our help to these Laurie Baker buildings? That is one agenda. We always try to do that also. But what you mentioned about that Ullur building, that is simply because of the real estate. They demolished it, and now a 10-story building is coming up the nearby place. Because they have a land behind that building, only the entry to the land is through the building. Then we tried to keep that building, but we utterly failed. Even we tried to ask them whether we can use all the materials and reproduce the same building into our campus. That is also not happened. That is unfortunate. But now at present we have an example here how they are trying to rescue one of the Laurie Baker building. Mrs. Geetha Narayanan, she will answer to that. Actually, they have two houses. Her mother passed away, and that house became vacant. And she wanted to, because two houses, keeping two houses, they don't want to keep two houses. That's why they wanted to sell it off. But she found a person who is having respect to that building, and also who wanted to preserve that building. And she will, I think she will speak about.
With age coming on, my husband and I began to find it rather difficult to maintain the house in Kaudiar opposite the Golf Links Road. It's a beautiful location, beautiful house. We have had lots of fun living there when Mummy was alive. But after she passed away, increasingly we began to think we should do something so that the children are not put to any trouble after our days are over. So we advertised, and the people who came to buy it, most of them said, we won't give you anything for the house because we're going to demolish the house. We'll only pay you for the land. And we decided that we wouldn't allow that to happen. So we waited for a long time, and then, as luck would have it, a very dear friend of ours who's here right now, Andreas Heitman, who's the owner of a beautiful resort called Tapovan in Kovalam. He came to us and he gave us this wonderful idea of turning that into a coffee shop. And he said he would be able to run it for us. And he has got a lot of ideas on how to do it, but he needed someone to guide him. And that is where Sajan has come up. He's promised to help him, to give him ideas, and to help to redo the house to make it into a coffee shop. We want to preserve it. The shell will not be interfered with. It will be exactly as it is. But we'll have to make a few changes inside, for which we'll take Sajan's help. I do hope the coffee shop will be a success. Do come and have coffee there when you're free. It's right opposite the golf club. Thank you.
Incidentally,
Continue, please. Continue. Okay, my name is Geetha. Can you hear me? Amadi.
incidentally, Laurie Baker's own house in Nalanchira is now, Vidya and Radhakrishnan are owning one part at the highest point, and Vidya and Radhakrishnan, they called us, and because I also have a hoteliering background, so they were asking whether we can convert that into a homestay with a difference, for architects, especially for architects who are interested in understanding Laurie Baker's works and who want to experience and stay there, and maybe students also, they can. So we are currently in the process of actually doing whatever that is the absolute minimum of trying to do whatever that is needed for the Nalanchira house, and trying to make it into a viable homestay. That way for architecture, for architects and architecture students, and whoever who is architecture oriented but who are visiting Trivandrum can probably in another 3 months' time making use of that facility. And I'm sure others in other parts of the country would definitely be excited about that possibility.
I think it's very important. A lot of people recognize heritage only by the age of the building. But there is a number of buildings which actually have heritage value, which may not be over 100 years old. And we're constantly faced with this dilemma. If you look at the building that Jaigopal did, which is in Delhi, yeah, which was demolished. I mean, a beautiful pavilion structure, very modern, but it had a nice openness to it. It had a lot of memory. So we can actually reclassify what is heritage, not necessarily by age, but what is public memory in that building. We recently had a conference in Goa called Modern Heritage, where we've recognized a whole lot of buildings which are under threat, which may not be very old, but have tremendous value to the community. So redefining that, we can actually create something which actually protects these buildings. In England, you have an organization called the Landmark Trust. And the Landmark Trust is, of course, funded mainly by the government, but there are also private people who actually invest in the Landmark Trust. And what they do is adaptive reuse, like converting it into a coffee shop. So they actually invest. The Landmark Trust takes up a building for 20 years. It runs the building in whatever, whether a homestay or a small restaurant. They take up old schools, railway stations, forts, and they run it for 20 years. They create enough revenue, and that revenue is shared with the local community. So the sense of connection of the local community with that building, knowing that it's not just using up real estate, but it's actually contributing to the community. So with that comes a great amount of protection for a thing, a great amount of attachment, and that really protects the building. So one can create trust like this, which may be a very small scale, but which recognize what is really valuable to the community and ensure that this not only, is able to have an adaptive reuse, but also contributes to the community in a positive way.
ഇത് ഒരു ലോറി ബേക്കർ എന്ന ഒരു ആർക്കിടെക്റ്റിൻ്റെ കെട്ടിടം പ്രിസർവ് ചെയ്യുന്ന ഇഷ്യൂ മാത്രമല്ല. നമ്മൾ എന്താണ് തിരഞ്ഞെടുക്കുന്നത് ജീവിതത്തിൽ? ഈ ഭൂമിയിൽ മനുഷ്യനും മറ്റു ജീവിവർഗങ്ങളും ജീവിതം തുടരണോ വേണ്ടയോ എന്നുള്ള വലിയൊരു തിരഞ്ഞെടുപ്പ് നമ്മൾ ചെയ്യേണ്ട ആണ് നമ്മൾ ജീവിക്കുന്നതെന്ന് ഞാൻ കരുതുന്നു. ആ തിരഞ്ഞെടുപ്പ് നമ്മൾ എങ്ങനെ നടത്തുന്നു എന്നതനുസരിച്ചിരിക്കും നമ്മൾ ഇവിടെ ജീവിക്കുമോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഭൂമിയിൽ ജീവിവർഗം അവശേഷിക്കുമോ എന്നുള്ളത്. ബേക്കറിൻ്റെ ഏറ്റവും വലിയ അതായിരുന്നു എപ്പോഴും. ഇവിടെ ഈ ഭൂമിയിൽ മനുഷ്യൻ ജീവിവർഗം അവശേഷിക്കുമോ, അവൻ സസ്റ്റെയിൻ ചെയ്യുമോ? അവന് സസ്റ്റെയിൻ ചെയ്യാനാവാത്തത്രയും റിസോഴ്സസ് എടുത്തുകൊണ്ടേയിരിക്കുമ്പോൾ അതൊരിക്കലും സാധ്യമല്ലെന്ന് ബേക്കർ അറിഞ്ഞിരുന്നു. അത് ഓരോ നിമിഷവും ബേക്കർ പറഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ടേയിരുന്നു തൻ്റെ പ്രവൃത്തിയിലൂടെ. നമ്മളത് എത്രത്തോളം കേട്ടുവെന്ന് ഞാൻ കാര്യമായി സംശയിക്കുന്നു. ഇനിയും നമ്മൾ കേൾക്കുന്നില്ലെങ്കിൽ നമ്മൾ അതിജീവിക്കാനേ പോകുന്നില്ല. ഞാനിത് നെഗറ്റീവായി പറയുന്നുവെന്ന് ദയവായി കരുതാതിരിക്കുക. നെഗറ്റീവായി അല്ല ഇത് പറയുന്നത്. നമ്മൾ ജീവിവർഗം ഈ ഭൂമിയിൽ അതിജീവിക്കണം എന്ന് ആശിക്കുന്നതുകൊണ്ട്, പ്രതീക്ഷിക്കുന്നതുകൊണ്ട് ലോറി ബേക്കർ എന്നത് ഒരു കോസ്മെറ്റിക് സംഭവം അല്ല എന്നതുകൊണ്ട് മനുഷ്യ ജീവിതത്തിൻ്റെ ആഴങ്ങളിലേക്കും താൻ ബന്ധപ്പെടുന്ന മനുഷ്യരുടെ ജീവിതത്തിലേക്കും എന്നും ഒരു പകുതി പരിഹാസവും പകുതി സ്വപ്നവുമായി നടന്നു കയറിയ ഒരു മനുഷ്യൻ്റെ ഓർമ്മയിൽ നമ്മൾ തീരുമാനിക്കേണ്ടിയിരിക്കുന്നു. അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നമ്മൾ ഇനി വരുന്ന തലമുറയ്ക്ക് മുന്നിൽ ഒരു വലിയ ചോദ്യചിഹ്നം ആകും. ഒരുപക്ഷെ മുന്നിലുള്ള തലമുറകൾ ഈ കാര്യം അറിഞ്ഞില്ലായിരിക്കാം. പക്ഷെ നമ്മൾ അറിയുന്നുണ്ട് എന്താണ് സംഭവിച്ചത്, എന്താണ് സംഭവിക്കാൻ പോകുന്നതെന്ന്. ഇനിയും തീരുമാനിക്കുന്നില്ലെങ്കിൽ മറ്റൊന്നും പറയാനില്ല.
name is Geetha. Um, so I'm living in a Laurie Baker type house for the past 25 years. And what I found is the temperature outside and inside my house has a 2 degree, at least 1 degree difference. When the outside temperature rises, inside it is cool. That is the beauty of the architecture. I have recorded the temperature for the past summer, and I have recorded a temperature in other normal type of buildings also. Because of the construction, like it is a rat trap type construction and filler slabs, materials used is friendly, and so it is my experience. And so another thing I have to disclose here is I'm writing his biography in Malayalam. So I have gone through and halfway through. So what I have found by experiencing, talking with many persons is his popularity, even though this answer to the global warming, answer to the use of air conditioners and other energy. It is energy efficient building, but even then the popularity is very low. Whenever is it worth? It is stable, is the structure is good? That type of questions are there for many people. So I'm asking that question. How can we increase the popularity? How can we tell the people and this is the answer? How can we do that?
Actually, ma'am, Laurie Baker lives through lives of many others who he has influenced. So you have the future generation of architects, the present generation of architects, and present generation of, ordinary people also, quite like you who's writing a biography. Everyone he has influenced, and the message gets passed on. One doesn't know whether the message gets passed on fast enough, but still the message gets passed on. So hopefully that beacon of hope, with that beacon of hope, let us move forward.
Thank you for this session. Session is over.